Okay, good afternoon, everybody. In this last on this last day, third day, fifth presentation that you are going to make, and in this slot, the students who are going to make presentations are Kishan, Lata, Nandita, Nidhi, Nidhi, Riddhi, Sneha, and Stuti. And you are going to make presentations on history of 20th century literature, and the topics that you have selected: birthday party as comedy of menace, characteristics of absurd theater, dystopian novels, utopia and dystopia in fiction, chief characteristics of comedy of menace, the setting of the 20th century, difference between modernism and postmodernism, and modernism in the literature of 20th century. So on these topics, you are going to make your presentations. So let me invite Kishan to start with the presentation.
Yes, Avyang. So hello everyone. Today I am going to present about paper number 1010, history of English literature from 19,000 to 2000. My topic is the birthday party play, comedy of Minans. So next, comedy of Minans is a two body of plays written by David Compton, Nigel Dennis, N.F. Simpson, and Harold Pinter. So the terms was coined by drama critic Larry Wardell, who borrowed it from the subtitle of comedy's play, The Lunatic View, a comedy of menace in reviving Pinter's caption play in core in 1958. Next. So, what is the comedy of Minans? Comedy of Minans is such different from sentimental comedy and anti-sentimental comedy. Comedy means humor, and Minans means theatric. Minans is a tragedy with a number of comic elements. It is a tragedy which also produce in a overwhelming tragic effect. Throughout the play, we are kept and throughout the play, we find ourselves also on the brink of terror. Some identifiable and vague fear keep our nervous edge. We feel uneasy all the time, even when we are laughing or smiling with uncertainty. So this deal gives the play unique characters. Next, the menace is produced throughout the play from potential and actual violence, or from borderlines of violence throughout the play. The actual cause of menace is difficult to define. It may be because the audience feel in uncertainty and insecurity throughout the play. The birthday party and look back in anger perfectly reveal the individual and social problem the Great Britain was moving through during the post-war era. Next. So, Harold Pinter was a playwright, director, actor, poet, and political activities. So, as a playwright, Harold Pinter is in inventor of a new kind of drama which became famous as the comedy of Manals. So, unlike Coleridge, the famous romantic poet, Pinter begins his play in our known familiar world, but gradually makes us move into a trajectory and psychodynamics of a world which is beyond our comparison. So is in Pinter's comedy of Menons, the laughter and elation of audience in the same or all situation are immediately followed by a feeling of some impending disaster, and audience is therefore made aware in way midst of his laughter of some manners. The feeling of insecurity and uncertainty thought the play also enhanced the magazine atmosphere of Pinter's birthday party. The Manons is a Pinterine drama is also produced by a potential of actual violence or from a undried sense of violence thought the play. Pinter makes the audience feel that the security of the principal character and even the audience own security are created by some sort of impending dangers of disaster. Next. So here some work of painters, the birthday party, the friends, literatures, woman, the trials, the go between. Next. So in arriving word, critic what's the painters play the birthday party as the effect of manners. Next. So the birthday party, a painter's birthday party is a perfect example of comedy of manners. Throughout the play, we find that the hint of manners is inflected upon the individual freedom of person, and it is juxtaposed the comic element directly delects the comic appeal. Painter show his state in his existential view that dangers prevails everywhere, that life cannot escape from it. Painter thinks the Stanley, the protagonist, might have committed a serious crime and is on the run of escaping the consequence and legal imposition of his a successful concert and about a favorable job proposal of a pianist. But we can realize his innate apprehension for imminent integration of arrest by the two new guests at the boarding house. Next. So they want to come someone talking. The Mikhail talked all about it in act number 1. So in this attempt to parapult his fear upon in his attempt to would come to the boarding house in a van along with Wilbur. Next. In a mood to top his strived Dom Pinter often shown is a apparent fear, apprehension, but actually given Ocean the amusement. Lulu's arrival and conquering at their boarding door fulfill the purpose. Similarly, makes funny answer to Goldberg's question about Stanley also sustains the sequence of Stanley's immediate arrest. Thus is a dramatics give is a comic relief of the audience. When Goldberg continuously referred to Job, which he has to exhibit Max in an audience confused about their unknown job. So as to see enhancing means Manons. Again, the conversation between Goldberg and Macon are often comical, but the possibility of danger and violence always pervade above the comedy. So here is one original quotation of in the play Goldberg. But why is it that before you do a job, you are all over the place, and when you are doing the job, you are as a cool as a whistle? So act one in another quote is a dialogue in here. Goldberg, you know what I said when that job come up. Naturally, they approached me to take care of it. And you know who I asked for? Macon, who? Goldberg, you. In this dialogue in Act 1, so the integration of Stanley by the two gentlemen is sometimes funny or comical, but have a gigantic impact both upon Stanley and the audience. Even the birthday party, which begins in a light and jovial manner and with Stanley attempt to struggle Meg and rap Lulu. So similarly, the birthday party also become the excuse of Goldberg's education and deflowing Lulu. Again, the argument of the birthday party acts as a plan to prove Stanley lunatic and take him away from the brooding. Next. So Goldberg all is dependent on the attitude of the subject at all events. So Mankan, I can assure you that the assignment will be carried out and the mission accomplished with too excessive observation to your myself in act 1. So at the end of the play, audience are given a unsolved riddle about what has been of Stanley, which is of paramount significance in Painter's the birthday party. So a perfect example of comedy of menace. Some critics even believe that it is a superposition of the European concept of absurd. Martin Aslin has been described the drama as an example of the theater of the expert to the English native wit. Next. So thus the conclude we may say that absurdity of the play, which is a represent frog a mancing effect, has it is often symbolic significance. It try to explain to human predicament in this indifferent and hostile world. Painters show us the reality of life of one of the major points of view about the play is meaninglessness and nothingness of human existence. So life under a constant shadow of fear and menace. Next. Here is my references. Next. Thank you.
Yes, you can stop sharing. And the questions to Kishan.
Yes. My question is that can you find any similarity between Waiting for Godot and the birthday party?
Yes, Neha. These are similarity between both the plays which are very famous in modern times. One is Waiting for Godot and another is Birthday Party, because they both are very much related to depend on human life. In Waiting for Godot, buckets often reduced character, plot, and dialogues to a minimum in effort to highlight a fundamental question, a human existence. The same characteristic in Birthday Party as well.
Hello Kishan, my question is no, painter represent any other meaning of nothingness in this play?
Yes, Tuti, one more thing is that here we are shown how nothingness is important for human predicament. Nothing means something. Is It is the main base of the play. Painter has directly developed the theater of absurd and his idiosyncratic theater of comedy of manners. So that the good forward solution for the dominating existential problem of man interpreted in his era. Painter was a leader in the theater of manners.
Next presenter is Lata.
Yes, sir. For my presentation, I would like to request Riddhi for present my PPT. So hello everyone. Today I am going to discuss about characteristic of absurd theatre, paper of history, 20th century literature. What is the theatre of the absurd? The theatre of the absurd is term coined by critic Martin Esslin in his essay Theatre of Absurd. He also wrote a book the same name as a Theatre of Absurd, and the term used for work of a number of playwrights, mostly written in 1950s and 1960s. The theatre of the absurd is also called anti-play, and Martin Esslin defined it as such because all of the plays emphasize the absurdity and the human condition. Next. According to Merriam-Webster dictionary, it defines absurd theatre as theatre that seeks to represent the absurdity of human existence in a meaningless universe by bizarre of or fantastic means. And Esslin was referring the original is out of harmony with reason of propriety logical. So here is the definition of theatre of absurd. In Merriam-Webster dictionary, the theatre of absurd is is represented as seek of the absurdity, and human existence is meaningless. Is in the universe, it is meaningless, and Esslin was said that it is our harmony with reasons of propriety and logical. The next. Yes, we studied Waiting for Godot, and it can be considered as a benchmark in the dramatic career of the Samuel Beckett, as the theme demand the audience to be sensible and face the situation coincidentally. And for Waiting for Godot, it can be said that the theatre of the absurd shows the world as an influenceable place. The spectators sees the happening on the stage entirely from the outside, without ever understanding the full meaning of this strange pattern of events. Newly tribed visitors might watch life in a country of which they have not yet mastered the language. Next. In a drama, plot is important thing, and while in a traditional drama, plots are arranged in a logical order. But in a absurdist play, they are represented in a rather fractured and scattered way. Since the modern society, emptiness of heart and people seeking their own status from the atmosphere, therefore anti-plot constitutes an important feature of the theatre of absurd. And then we can see that contrary to the conventional play in theatre of absurd, no regular rules are followed while staging a story. In the absurd play, there is no rules for plot and any event that playwrights can follow their own style of writing in and staging the story. Next. The history of absurd theatre. This movement influenced by existentialism. Existentialism was coined by Camus, and this began in the form of experimental theatre in Paris. And absurd elements first came into existence after the rise of Greek drama in the play of Aristophanes, in the form of wild humor and buffoonery and old comedy. And morality plays of the Middle Ages can also be called path founder of the theater of the absurd, and it dealing with a common man's struggle with existential problems. Next. In 19th century, Ibsen and Strindberg also include some elements of absurd theater, and the theater of absurd is also presented by Alfred Jarry's monstrous puppet play Ubu Roy. It was published in 1896, and a glimpse of theater of absurd can be seen in the dream novel of James Joyce and Franz Kafka, who created archetype by developing deep into their own consciousness and attempting to explore the universe. This term for the theater of absurd is mostly take place after World War, because in World War the questions are arised by people that what is the existence of human life, and the theater of absurd is the answer for that all questions, and Martin Esslin wrote this book in the answer of that all questions. Next. So now I'm going to discuss about the characteristic of absurd theater. The first is question of existence. As I talk here that after World War, everyone raising question about the existence. Also raise some basic question of existence of life, like why we are alive, what we have to do in our life, and why we have to die, and similar kind of questions that arises in our mind, and this in absurd theater these all questions are presented. The second characteristic of absurd theater is distrust in language. For the absurdist playwright, language is only meaningless communication and stereotyped exchange in ideas, because words fail to express essence of human existence. This is also important characteristic of theater of absurd, that playwrights distrust in language. So this is also important characteristic of absurd theater. The next. The third characteristic of absurd theater is illogical speeches and meaningless plot. By illogical speeches and meaningless plot, they wish to establish a feeling of freedom to make their own words. We studied Waiting for Godot. In this drama, we can see that it is the best example of absurd theater, absurd drama. And in that drama, we can see that the conversation between Vladimir and Estragon is meaningless, and their speeches are also meaningless. There is no importance of their speeches and their meaningless plot. So this is also important characteristic of absurd theater. And the fourth characteristic of absurd theater is a re-establishment of man's communication with universe. Martin Esslin also give attempt to restore the importance of myth and rituals in the life of man, and make them aware of ultimate realistic of their life. The theater of absurd is a one type of satire on the human life. It is also it is also shows harsh reality of religious matter and the universe, like what is our existence, how why we have to die, and the other questions which is about the universe and our life. So this is also non-characteristic of theater of absurd. Next. The fifth characteristic of absurd theater is emphasis on abstract value of life. The absurdists force us to look at our abstract value of life, like love and family, and we may hope to accept the absurdity of life and try to find value in them. Uh, as we know that in absurd drama, we have to accept the situation as it is, and it is the also characteristic of absurd theater. And the sixth characteristic of absurd theater is vagueness about time, place, and character. Absurdity have no time, place, and character in their place, as they feel that is not past or future, only the representation of the present. In Waiting for Godot, we also seen that there is no description about past and future. It is mainly focus on present, and what we are doing. It is the main focus of the play. So we can see that there is no important of past and future in absurd drama. And there is also one important characteristic is that there is a less of character. In the Waiting for Godot, there are only 4 characters. So this is also important characteristic of absurd theater. Next, and the characters. Each character an egoistic life attempt to get another character to understand, and this results in more alienation. As I talked earlier, that the absurd play is a lack of communication and character. It has no beginning, climax, and ending scenes. There is only meaningless action that this is described in a play. So these are characteristic of absurd theater. And then next, these are my references. And thank you very much.
Okay, questions to Lata?
Yes, Lata. My
Yes,
question is, can you remember any other name of playwright of the theater of absurd?
Yes, Kishan. The other playwright of absurd theater is Eugene Ionesco, Harold Pilter, and Jean Genet is also a well-known playwright for absurd theater.
Lata, my question is give any other name of absurd drama which we have studied.
The play Waiting for Godot we also studied, and the birthday party is another example of absurd drama which we have studied.
Okay, next presenter is Nandita.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the third day of presentation, and it is the last presentation with paper History of English Literature 1900 to 2000. My topic is dystopian novels, which deals with real and real features. Here are the definition of the utopian concept. Before getting into dystopian concept, that what is dystopia, we have to understand that what is utopian concept. The utopian concept refers to the human efforts to create a hypothetical perfect society. It means it creates a society where there is everything is equal, everything is fair, everything is good. Not even a single thing is bad happens in such type of concept or places. The another one is it refers to a good but impossible proposals, or at least ones that are difficult to carry out. This content has everything what utopian concept deals with. It refers to good, but those elements which are impossible or proposals are at least ones that are difficult to carry it out. The another thing is now dystopian and utopian. What are the difference between both the concepts, and what are the real features and real features into it? As we all know that utopia contains a society where there is everything is good. There is a sense of positivity in it. Same as in utopia, in dystopian concept, we get to know the opposite thing of utopia. In dystopian literature or dystopian term is always related to utopia in an opposite direction, or it is often a utopian goal. Soar means here relates to something which is negative, something which is low, something which is dying, and an imaginary place or a state where everything is as bad as it could possibly be. So we have studied also the novels which is based on dystopian concept and utopian concept too. But the picture here relates that everything is confusing. Confusion is the utmost thing, and which is lead by frustration, desire, and all the things which has the negative adjectives or perspectives of life. Here, there are some examples of dystopian novels, which are the novels usually include elements or contemporary society and are seen as warning against some modern trends. Here, some modern trends are the things which has a threat. Now, the question arises: the modern trends has threat of what? Threat of the sense of the feeling that a dystopian novel consisting, because it also denotes the society and its culture, that how it is going on and how it is affecting to each and every people living in the society, and blaming their concept and their mind. The another thing is writers uses them as cautionary tales, and in which humankind is put into a society that may look inviting on the surface but in reality a nightmare. It is connected to the holy desire. Now the holy and desire both are different perspective words, because holy is always used for something which is positive or pure, and the another thing is not as matching to it. So the writer here use as the writers use this type of tales by denoting something which is going wrong, and it also puts a question mark to humankind and the humanity wherein the world is suffering from. Here are some examples of the dystopian novels, which we all in other presentations also we had considered it. The first is 1984, which develops the concept of human mind, and a dystopian novel also relates the another novels, which is of Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451, A Clockwork Orange, and Animal Farm. The Time Machine also relates to all these novels, which are a concept and denoted examples of dystopian novels. Here I had done the comparison of the novel 1984 versus the Brave New World. Both are similar concept, both are distinguished with the dystopian novel. And the first one is the major difference between the two books. In 1984, the people are controlled by constant governments, surveillance, secret police, and tortures. We had already gone through the novel, and we understand that how it is bad or how it is mind washing to the people who are living in the society where the year 1984 denotes to. And the other one is the Brave New World, which also denotes that humans are controlled by technological interventions that start before birth and actually change what people want. Here, the another thing is the both concepts are similar, because there is the term desire involved in it, the desire to be free. The concept of freedom also related to both these novels. In 1984, also people are not getting freed of the corruption and all the ministries, and in Brave New World also people want to change the world, but there is not even that type of bravery to make a change in the world. So both these novels contain this type of sources. And here are the comparisons of 1984, The Brave New World, and Fahrenheit. Their goals is like everyone equal things in the same way. No war, no poverty, or no happiness spying there. And in the third one also we can get a glimpse of absence of things disrupted to the society. The methods which are used in these forms are force, spying, or secret police. In Brave New World also we can find the method which is related to change what and people want. The third one is method used in it is book burnings and no personal experiences related to it. The theme also gone to the same way, which 1984 consists of evils of totalitarianism, and the Brave New World is related with the theme of sacrificing culture and for happiness. And the third one also concludes with the same thing, which consequences of the fast-paced society. The other one is the how the dystopian literature is different from the other literature. The dystopian literature of the periods reflected many concerns that resonated throughout the 20th century, and the concept of dystopia was also introduced to help in reveal the potential consequences of utopia turning against itself. So it is a world where there is two parts. One is negative and one is positive. The negative one contains the dystopian terms, the dystopian literature, which has all this type of concerns to the humanity in it, and it also relates to the 20th century. And the concept of dystopia is also helps in revealing the consequences of a people's strange life. And here the people's strange life is denoted with the thing which is already displayed in the novels like 1984 or The Brave New World. So as all, if we compare the real features of this presentation, I had found out that both the concept are somewhat connected to each other, because there is one word which separates both things, which is opposition. The opposition of something which is which can also denotes positivity or negativity, and as and where. And dystopian literature also follows all those things which has been turned into modern trends and which are a part of 20th century. These are my references where I had took some points upon in my presentation. Thank you. Hope you all like it.
Okay, yes. Questions to Nandita?
Yes, Nandita, my question is, what according to you the definition of dystopian literature?
Literature include elements which are in society and are seen as against trends. It tends to focus on society.
Yes, hello, Nandita.
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes.
So my question is how utopia is different from dystopia.
The European concept stands for the human efforts to create a society which is had the adjective of perfection. And the dystopian society or literature also stands the opposite of utopia. And it denotes with a place where everything is bad and full of negativity.
Okay, next presenter is Nidhi.
Hello everyone, good afternoon to all. I'm going to present my screen. So let me know, is it visible or not?
Not yet.
Okay. It will take a time. It's just processing. Now is it visible?
Okay. Let us wait for some time.
હું લેફ્ટ થઈ ગઈ જો નેટવર્ક ઇશ્યુ.
No, yet not.
Now?
No, not yet. Yeah, I think she is left. Yeah. Okay, we will take another turn and then we'll come back to her. Okay. Niyati, are you ready?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, yes, you can start. Okay. Yes, Niyati, are you trying? Yeah, yeah, okay, we are seeing your screen. Yeah. Yes. You have to unmute yourself and put the camera on.
Yes, sir. So my topic is on chief characteristics of comedy of man.
I think another device you have to put audio off.
So it's already off.
Check again, maybe it's not that sound, but audio off. So I think the device from where you are sharing, maybe there the audio is on. Yeah, audio is on in this. Yeah. Okay, by the time she...
Sir,
yes.
will you share my screen?
No, but try to solve that problem. It is solvable, I think. It's not a difficult problem.
Okay, I will try.
You have to just see to turn the audio off. Yeah.
Now is it on?
Still, you have not turned audio off, I think. Yes, come out from the presentation and come to meet in this device which you are sharing. Yeah. See, audio is we are seeing the mic. Mic will have a cross line once it is put off. Are you seeing the microphone?
Yes, sir.
That you have to tap. And then you will get the features to put audio off. See the semester 2 webinar, there is microphone sign. Sorry, speaker sign is there. That you have to tap.
Yes, sir, I'll tap.
Then what are you seeing? Any options are coming up when you tap it?
Now,
Or turn the audio to 0 in that device from where you are sharing. Now you are getting the options. Audio off. Yeah, third option. Now see, do you see the cross sign? That is what I was
Yes,
telling.
sir.
That, yeah,
Yes,
that is
okay.
what you have to. Everybody, you can check that this is how you have to see. This. So this is what I was telling, that this all you should be teaching me. Not I. I should not teach you all this thing. You are supposed to be master of the technology. The new generation should be the master of technology. Okay, you can start. Yeah.
Okay. So my topic is on three characteristics of comedy of Minas. So let us know about what is comedy of Minas. Comedy of Minas is a term used to describe the plays of David Campton and Harold Pinter by drama critic Irving Riddle, borrowed from the subtitle of Compton's play The Lunatic View, a comedy of Minas. Comedy of Minas and comedies of Minas quote on and have been used generally in advertisement and in critical account, notices and reviews to describe Pinter's early plays and some of his works as well. The Comedy of Minas is a tragedy with a number of comic elements. It is a comedy which also produces an overwhelming tragic effect. Throughout the play we are kept amused, and yet throughout the play we find ourselves also on the brink of terror. Some of indefinable and vague fear keeps our nerves on an edge. We feel uneasy all the time, even when we are laughing or smiling with amusement. This dual quality gives to the play a unique character. Compton's subtitle Comedy of Minas is a jocular play on words derived from Comedy of Manners. Manners being manners, pronounced with somewhat of a Judeo-English accent. Pinter's The Birthday Party is a perfect example of Comedy of Minas. Throughout the play, we find that the hint of Minas is influenced upon the individual freedom of a person. As a playwright, Harold Pinter is an innovator of a new kind of drama, which becomes famous as the Comedy of Minas. So here is the dialogue of Harold Pinter. More often than not, the speech only seems to be funny. The man in question is actually fighting a battle for his life. Pinter's Comedy of Minas have a rather simplistic setting. They might focus on one or two powerful images and usually are set in just one room. A powerful force that is not specially defined to the audience threatens character in the play. The atmosphere of Minas is also created by Pinter's ability to drop suddenly from a high comic level to one of deep seriousness. By this technique, the audience is made aware that the comedy is only at surface layer. The sudden outbreaks of violence in the play confirms this and leaves the audience unsure of what will come next. At the center of much of Pinter's work, there is a private space, safe, comfortable, and then the threat of its invasion by a stranger.
Thus, the conclude we may say that the absurdity of the play, which is represented through menacing effect, has its own symbolic significance. It tries to explain the human predicament in this indifferent and hostile world. At the end of the play in Act 3, Peter is tongue-tied and silent. His emotions and thoughts remain unexpressed and bottled up. Throughout the play, we find that the hint of menace is influenced upon the individual freedom of a person. Painter's The Birthday Party is perfect example of comedy of meaning. Here is my reference.
Okay, yeah, questions to Niyati?
Niyati, my question to you is, what is the comedy of menace, and where does borrow this term from the which play?
Just a minute. A comedy of menace is a play in which the laughter of the audience. Am I audible?
Yes, you are. Continue. Yeah.
Okay. A comedy of menace is a play in which the laughter of audience in some or all situation is immediately followed by a feeling of some impending disaster. The audience is made aware of some menace in the very midst of the play, and Redel borrowed this term from subtitle "The Lunatic View of Comedy of Menace."
Niyati, my question to you is, how is Birthday Party a comedy of menace?
Yes, a comedy of menace is the body of a play written by David Compton, Dennis Finnegan, and Harold Pinter. The term was coined by drama critic Irving Redel. Thank you.
Okay, yeah, Nidhi, are you ready?
Yes, sir, I'm ready.
Yes, Nidhi, are you ready?
Yes, sir. Then I will share my screen.
So you can start then. Yeah.
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to present a utopian and dystopian fiction. Next slide, please. Our table of content is what is the utopia, what is the dystopia, characteristics of a utopian fiction, characteristics of the dystopian fiction, variety of a utopia, variety of dystopia. Next slide, please. What is the utopia? So according to a Cambridge dictionary, a perfect society in which people work well with each other and are happily. Try and imagine a perfect society, a utopia, in which the government really got everything right. Humans in the developed world at least are as close to utopia as they are ever like to be argued with the professor. Now, what is a dystopia? Simply, a dystopia is defined as the bad place, a place where no one would want to live, a place in which one's right and freedom would be gone, a place where the environment would be devastated, and dystopia is created from the prefix dice means bad and harsh or worse, and the Greek root topos means place. Now, what is the significance of the utopian fiction? So, some of the significance utopian fiction consists is the peaceful, being benevolent government, then equality for the citizen, access to education, healthcare, employment, and so forth. And citizens are free to think independently as a safe, favorable, and environment. Now, what is the significance of the dystopian fiction? Dystopian novels that have a didactic message often explore them themes like anarchism, oppression, and mass poverty. Margaret Atwood, one of literature's most celebrated author of the dystopian fiction, think about it like this: if you are interested in a writing speculative fiction, on way to generate a plot is to take an idea from the current society and move it a little further down the road. Even if humans are short-term thinker, fiction can anticipate and extrapolate into the multiple version of the future. Now, characteristics of the utopian fiction. So, utopian literature typically is isolated the element of a presence, the reality that need improvement, and it then conjuring the world that featured that improvement. Ecologically, utopian story present the world where climate and nature resources no longer face their crisis they do today. And the feminist utopia offered the world where women and men are fully equal. And technologically utopias depict the advancement in upcoming robotic and transporting that are mere dreams in the present world. Now, characteristics of the dystopian fiction. Propaganda replaces education and is used to control the citizen of a society. Another characteristic, the information independence through and the freedom are restricted. And then other is citizens are perceived to the under consent surveillance. Citizens have a fear of the outside world. Citizens live in a dehumanized state. The natural world is vanished and disturbed, and citizens conform to uniform. The expectations, individuality, and decent are bad. Now, one of the interesting thing is the variety of a utopia. So, utopia can be varied as the ecological utopia, economic utopia, political utopia, religious utopia, and science utopia. So now we are going to more discussion about these 5 kind of utopia. So first is the ecological utopia. What does it mean by the ecological utopia is that a traditional way of life that is the more harmony with nature and organic way of life. Now ecological utopia, an equal distribution of goods and friendly with the total abolition of money and with money and citizen only doing work which they enjoying and which is the for of the common good, leaving them with ample time for the cultivation of the art and science. They forget all the salary, titles, work and status and choose a job that mark they want. Now political utopia, world peace, global nonsense, and everyone getting along regarding of the race, culture and political beliefs, a world without a war. Now what does mean by the religious utopia? So religious utopia consists the harmony, peace, understanding, enlightenment. Now science and technology utopia, set in the future, utopian living standards, absence of death and sufferings, and changes in a human nature and the human condition. Next slide. No. Is it not visible? Maybe next now. Variety of a dystopia. Now come to the varieties of a dystopia. The first is the society, second is the social group, nature, politics, and economic. So society. So we are taking an example like a class system, people referring to as a number rather than a manner, and people are cloned. So there are several of the same people, and there are uniform and lose the individuality. Now come to the social group. So examples are the concept of the religious undertaker and concept of the families no longer exist. So now nature. The setting of the dystopia are frequently urban, separated all character from any contact with nature, and people are conditioned to be afraid of nature. Now come to the politics. Political varieties are governing classing. Class is a hedonistic of
It seems she is disconnected again. Let us wait for some time if she can reconnect. Let us wait for a couple of minutes if she can reconnect again.
Give me a minute, sir. Due to network issue, I left from the laptop.
Yeah, no problem. You connect and continue with this. Yeah.
Now, what is the difference between utopian and utopian fiction and dystopian fiction? So, according to James, utopian fiction. Sir, I'm getting some problem with the slides. It's not visible. So.
No, here it is visible. Your voice is visible. Your video also is visible. Yeah.
Okay, give me a minute, sir, please. Okay. Can I continue, sir?
Yes, continue. Yeah.
Now, how YouTube? What is the difference between the utopian fiction and dystopian fiction? So, according to James Patterson, utopian fiction is set in a perfect world, an important version of a real life. Dystopian fiction does the opposite. A dystopian novel drops its main character into a world where everything seems to have gone wrong at the macro level. Much like a utopian novel, dystopian novel can take place in the future and the past, or an alternate present, and some may feature altered version of a real world cities like New York, London, and other may be set in the full fictional novels. Now, how utopia saved the world? So, according to Tom Hodgkin Moore coin, the world described as an island and community with an ideal mode of a government, and first published in the late 1517. The book Utopia means no place in a Greek. Some scholars have said that it may also be a one of a happy place, and they live in a perfect no load, and they observe no laws, emergio, and the digger advocated a community philosophy. The earth ought to be a common treasure to all. The fundamental problem in a creating perfect world, people don't like being told what to do, like their capitals. And for beer in the 19th century, Silicon Valley capitalists talk about the building ideal societies. Now, example of a utopian and dystopian fiction. So, as we know that some of the famous utopian fiction like Gulliver Travels by Jonathan Swift, then a modern utopia by H.G. Wells, Man Like a God by the H.G. Wells, Iceland by the Aldous Huxley, Always Coming Home by the Ursula Kelly. Then now come to the dystopian fiction, The Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, 1984, as we studied, by George Orwell. So some of these all are some of example of the both utopian and dystopian fictions. These all are my citations. Thank you.
Hello, Nidhi.
Yes, hello.
My question is, what do you think we are living in a utopian world or a dystopian world?
Actually, as my opinion, we are living in a dystopian world because whatever we are doing is watching by someone. Now there is no safety. Like we are using a FB, we are using a WhatsApp, Instagram. So our personal life is not as personal as we think. And somewhere we are watching by someone. So in a way, we are living in a dystopian world. Thank you.
Nidhi, can you give a name of a web series which is based on dystopian themes?
I remember Sir often mentioned the web series named Layla. So I also would to give example of Layla that it's a dystopian web series. Thank you, Nandita.
Yes, okay, good. There are a couple of things which everybody can take note of. In this presentation, she has used these citations in a proper way. So, like for example, let me share this screen. She has taken this James Patterson, for example. James Patterson. She has used in this. And another one is Hodgkinson. Hodgkinson, according to Tom Hodgkinson, it's a couple of things, and that is cited. Then here James Patterson is mentioned inside the slides, which is again referred at the end. I think two names I am seeing there. Okay. Now, see, both the names should come, like people are curious to see that, well, you say that Tom Hodgkinson says so and so kind of thing. So I may be interested to see that where has Tom Hodgkinson written all these things and how has he written. So I will go to citations to check whether it is there or not. So I find Tom Hodgkinson, How Utopia Shaped the World, BBC. There is a link also that is given there. Okay? Now, in the same case, the Patterson is missing. You see that Patterson, James Patterson. Yeah, James Patterson. So what is the citation source? That is not there. So in that way, you cut your marks in there, in text and at the end of the text. That combination is very important. But using this inside the text is very good. This is how you can score more marks in research and citations. If you can use this in this. Then one more stage is there where you use it for arguments. You agree, disagree, you make arguments based on so and so kinds of thing. That is the next stage of using the resources. Okay, next presenter is Riddhi. Yes.
Yes, sir. Is it visible, sir?
Yes, you can start. Yeah.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody, and sir. Today we are deal with our paper number 1011 history of English literature, and my topic is a representation of India in the 20th century European literature, Siddharth by Hermann Hesse. So first we see that key objectives: representation of India in the 20th century European literature, then brief introduction of Hermann Hesse, then Siddharth. In this topic, we are see that storyline of Siddharth, then Buddha and his teaching, chapter titles in Siddharth, theme, and our most important topic, how Siddharth represented India and why we read this book. So first, these are some example of this literature that they represent India in 20th century European literature. So Rudyard Kipling, then E.M. Forster, Passage to India, then T.S. Eliot, The Westland, and here we talk about Hermann Hesse Siddharth. So, who is Hermann Hesse? Hermann Hesse full name is Hermann Karl Hesse. He was born in 2 July 1877. Then his occupation are novelist, poet, painter, and also his famous work is the Glass Bead Game, then Siddharth, Steppenwolf, and depicts in his work. So the duality of spirit and nature, then body versus mind, in the individual spiritual search outside the restrictions of the society. Now, impetus for writing and his practice. So Hermann Hesse wanted to cure his sickness with life by immersing himself in Eastern philosophy. Then Hesse lived as a semi-recluse and become totally immersed in the sacred technique of both Hindu and Buddhist scriptures, each of which explore an individual search for authenticity, self-knowledge, and spirituality. So when we talk about Siddharth, first we see that what is the meaning of Siddharth. So the word Siddharth is made up of two words in the Sanskrit language. Siddh means achieved and Arth means meaning of well. It means the two words together mean he who has found meaning of existence or he who has attained his goals. So now we talk about storyline of Siddharth. So an elegiological novel that deals with the spiritual journey of a man known as Siddharth. The protagonist spent his lifetime searching for peace, faith, and meaning. Siddharth takes place in ancient India around the time of Gautam Buddha, likely between the 5th and 7th century BC. Thus, Buddha's name before his renunciation was Prince Siddharth Gautam. In Siddharth, the Buddha is referred to as a Gautam. So the novel is structured on the three stages of life of traditional Indian philosophy, that student, householder, and recluse. Then Buddha and his teaching. So any individual who has achieved any individual enlightenment without the aid of enlightenment others, generally considered founder of Buddhism, and Siddharth Gautam Buddhism. Suffering is a part of life. Then desire organized from ignorance and desire suffering. These are chapters of this book Siddharth, part 1 and part 2. Then themes. There are some most important themes in this book, that happiness comes from spiritual peace. Then Siddharth seeks in different stages of life. Then the quest. Siddharth search for inner spirit. Then love for parents, child, male, female. Friendship. Siddharth and Govinda friendship. So now, how Siddharth represented India and why we read this book. So the study of Siddharth provides not only insight into Eastern religions, thought, but also a valuable representation of the influence of religion and culture on literature, provides insight into the theme of one's search for personal identity. Here, protagonist Siddharth is restless and seeks self-realization and inner knowledge. He leaves fathers and household to join. And here his antagonist is Siddharth's base instincts which lead him to ordinary physical pleasure created by Kamashwami and Kamala. She was a prostitute. So here is some noble truth. There are the first noble truth tries to address the nature of suffering. Then the second noble truth tries to address the cause of suffering. Then the third noble truth says suffering can be eliminated by removing or overcoming desire. And the fourth noble truth tries to address the tools needed to live more meaningful life. These quotes are from Siddharth Hermann Hesse book. These are my references. Thank you.
Okay, good. In the spreadsheet, you have mentioned the setting, yes, but you talked about Siddharth, so you might have edited it. The title you have to edit, which you are, if you are changing it on last moment, then also you can edit it mentioned here. So this is the advantage of this cloud computing or this cloud technology, where anytime you can edit. If it is hand to hand, then whenever you come to department and when you meet the teacher, then only you have to make the addition that now I want to change my topic. But here you can, and whenever you decide that now you want to change the topic, you can do that there. But if you do it, then only it is use of technology. If you don't do it, then it is not use of technology. You have to do it. This advantage that we get over the physical life in the digital life, that is to be utilized. Okay, fine. So questions to her?
May I say?
Hi, yes. Yeah.
Riti, my question to you is, in which year Hermann Hesse was awarded Nobel Prize for Literature?
1946.
Yes, next.
What does Siddharth say is become most important thing in the world?
So in this novel, in this book, Siddharth explained that love is the most important thing to have in the world. To love a person, a place, and the world, everything should be embraced for what is it. Thank you.
Okay, fine. Now, when was this book published? Siddharth was published in the year? Which was the year in which was it published? Yes, yes, Riddhi. Yeah. The year in which the book was published in which year?
On 1922. Am I audible?
Yes, you are audible. 1922. And now see, so this can be an interesting question to ask, that when Nidhi was asking that which year he got a Nobel Prize.
1946.
No, yeah, that was in 1946. So this was a seminal work, and for which he is remembered a lot, Siddharth and a few other texts. So he got after 1940s, let us around Second World War. By the end of Second World War, he is getting this. And this text is translated into English language, and then it was published in after Second World War. After Second World War, it was published. What was the original language of this text originally written in? German, yeah, German language, originally in German language. And then I think in 1950s, after Second World War, it was translated in English language and published there. So there was revival of interest in Hermann Hesse and Siddharth also after Second World War, which was written after First World War. But then there was that revival of interest there also. Instead of just asking for the date, the question that when was the award given, you can say that why was he given the order? That can be still a better question, because when is only information, when is only a date is not unimportant, but why is very important. Then why at a particular moment, then that time also is important, because some writers suddenly come into limelight because of social change. Something happens in society. And then people remember some writer who is a lost writer. Nobody remembers him. In German language, and for a couple of decades, nobody in the English world is aware about it. And then after Second World War, people again realize the importance of going back to spirituality. So we have seen in the setting that there is a rise into religious literature. So whenever there is calamities, the history of human beings has told that whenever we suffer calamities, we remember God a lot. We go back to God again in the times of calamities, and then there is again a rush for writing religious things or spiritual things also. Okay, next presenter is Sneha.
Yes, am I audible?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, I sharing my screen from their device.
Okay, okay, who is Nidhi? Are you at department right now?
Yes.
Nidhi also. Okay, so which internet are you using there? Are you not using department internet?
No, sir.
Otherwise, then you won't face a problem. If you connect a LAN cable, and if you connect with the LAN, then you will get better speed. In the classroom, it will be tough to get a mobile internet. Good internet will not be there in classroom. And outside it is raining. So you can't go and sit outside also. So it is raining outside. And inside you have to use LAN. There are lots of cables in both the classrooms. So I think Seema came to guide you that how to connect with the LAN also. So learn to use LAN cable with laptop when you are at department, then you will get good speed, better speed also. Okay, yes, Sneha, you can start.
Yes, sir. Good afternoon, everybody. Today I would like to present about a difference between modernism and postmodernism. So first of all, what is modernism? Modernism is a literary and cultural international movement which flourished in the first decade of the 20th century. Modernism is not a term to which single meaning can be ascribed. It may be applied both of the content and to the form of a work, or to either in isolation. Modernism is a comprehensive movement which began in the closing years of the 19th century and has had a wide influence internationally during much of the 20th. What is postmodernism? Postmodernism is a term which was not existed earlier, but with the passing of time, including the gradual growth of modernism, it climbed into existence and got establishment as a mother term. Separated from modernism, the term postmodernism is often applied to the literature and after World War II. Postmodernism provided the best reference like Dick Hebage, George Herbert, Terry Eagleton and Christopher Norris have rallied against the turn towards the postmodernism. Here is the quote by Jean-Francois Lyotard: "A work can become modern only if it is a postmodern. Postmodernism, thus understood, is not modernism yet. It's and but in the nascent state, and this state is a constant. Here is the characteristic of modernism: refusal of coherent meaning, rejection of realism, subjectivity, split temporalities, unstable identity, idiosyncratic language, metafiction, experimental forms, split identities, focus on interiority, unreliable narrator. Characteristic of postmodernism: ambivalent stance of towards realism, split temporalities, ironic narrator, metafiction, fragmentation, multiple points of view, focus on extrovert, pastiche, irony, black humor, intertextuality. Modernism versus postmodernism. In modernism, is a school of thought that took place in the late 18th century and early 19th century. Whereas postmodernism is a school of thought that took place after World War II. Here, modernism advocate rational thinking and the use of science and reason for the advancement of man, whereas the postmodernism believed in the irrationality of things. Modernist era was characterized by the simple and elegant original works of gifted artists, whereas the postmodernist era was characterized by the advancement in technology and its use in different media. Modernists believed in a universal truth, whereas the postmodernists did not believe in a universal truth. In a modernism, modernists were not political, whereas the postmodernists were very political. In a modernism, they focus on the writer, and postmodernism, they focus on a reader. In this, we find that unreliable narrator, and where the in a postmodernism we find ironical narrator. In the modernism, they focus on rejection of realism, and whereas the postmodernism we find ambivalence towards realism. In modernism, literature is self-contained, and whereas the postmodernism, literature is open and intertextual. In modernism, we find that hybrid genres, and in the postmodernism, mixing of high and low pro genres. In modernism, we find a rejection of literary convention, where there is in a postmodernism parody of literary conventions. In a modernism, we find idiosyncratic language, and whereas the postmodernism we find simple language. In the modernism, emerged around the time of the second industrial revolution, which was marked by the decline of stable social classes, the beginning of professionalism, and a sense of urban elitation. Whereas the postmodernism generally refer to cultural phenomena with certain characteristics that emerged after the Second World War, when exactly postmodernism starts very according to national context and individual critics. Conclusion: in sum up, we can say that some believe that postmodernism was a response to has considered them as a two aspects of the same movement. And further, we see some major difference between modernism and postmodernism. This distinction makes clear the basic difference in a ways of thinking that led to this movement. The difference between modernism and postmodernism in literature depends on their themes and literary and narrative techniques. Here is my references. Thank you. Sir, unmute your mic.
Yeah, who is going to ask questions to her?
Yes, sir. May I?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so Sneha, can you tell me what makes modernism unique?
Yes, Rithi. One thing is that modernist fiction spoke of the inner self and consciousness. Instead of progress, the modernist writer saw a decline of civilization.
Thank you.
What is the goal of postmodernism?
There is one goal is that as a philosophy, postmodernism is reject a concept of rationality and universal truth. Instead, they emphasize on the diversity of human experience and multiplicity of perspectives. Thank you.
Okay, last presentation of the day is by Stuti.
Yes, sir. Kishan, sharing my screen, please.
Yes.
Yes, who is sharing?
Kishan.
Yeah. I think there is an echo sound on your side. Do you have another device? Stuti?
No, sir.
Your sound is coming back from your side. So have you connected any external speaker or anything?
No, sir.
But the sound is coming back. The thing that was happening yesterday in Hiral's case, happening there. So you have to, I think, put off speaker then. Speaker or something you have put on, because of which sound is coming back. Check your audio settings in your Meet.
Now, sir?
Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, it is still coming. If you speak audio off and then try to speak. No, not this microphone off, audio off. Which I think we were doing with another student. Right now we are asking to turn audio off.
Now, sir?
Hello? Yeah, hello? Yeah, okay, now it's not coming. Yeah. Okay, now you can continue. Yeah. Yes, you can start. Now.
I'm audible, sir?
Yes, you're audible.
Okay, sir. Good afternoon, everyone. Today's my topic is the modernism in literature. Next. What is the literary modernism? Literary modernism trace its origin to late 19th and early 20th century. In French spread to England and American and finally come back to Europe. Enjoy its peak during the year 1910 in 1925. Literary modernism or modernist literatures originated in the late 19th and early 20th century, mainly in Europe and North America, and characterized by a self-conscious break with a traditional way of writing in the both poetry and prose fiction writing. Next. Modernism as a movement. Modernism as a movement can be recognized not only in literature but also in the science, philosophy, psychologies, anthropologies, painting, music, and architectures. In movement, modernism as a movement is modernism referred to a global movement in society and culture that from the early decided of the 20th century, 20th century south and new element with the experience and volume of modernist industrial life. Modernism has also been driven by various social and political agency. Next. Artist and literary movement. Imagism, symbolism, verticisms, and expressionisms, futuricisms, and Dadaisms. The term modernism cover the modernisms cover a number of related and overlapping articles and literary movements including imagism, symbolisms, and futurisms. Vertically clubisms and surrealisms and Dadaisms. Next. History of modernism in literature. Emergence of field of psychology and sociology, advancement in science and technology, ambiguous situation after World War I, and increases in populations and expansions of cities. It was in this tumultuous time that the culture revolutions known as modernism. Modernism is a period in a literary history of which state around the yearly 1900 and continued until the early 1940s. Modernism's writers in general rebelled against clear-cut storytelling and worth of the 19th century. Next. Characteristic of modernist literature. Decay of characters of hero. The psychological theory of Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud created an impact on modernist writer found did traditions method of portraying character was erroneous. Modern stories goes to deep into the subconsciousness, even the unconsciousness, or to depict the individuals at the war with himself. This psychological study of the depth of human nature has led to the death of both hero and villain in the tradition sense. Next, decay of plot. Modern story does not follow a chronological order. Modern story do not have a beginning or end. Modernist literatures and active readers. Modern story not follow. Modern stories does not follow a chronological order. For modern writer, life does not follow easily into story as according to them. It is not continue flow. Rather, it is the serious of the separate moment and experience. Next. Stress in individual is more important from modern it to write than society. And in a modern story, there are two universal aspect, value of society and conduct. Next. Realism. Modern story are realistic for writer. There is no such a thing as absolute truth. Everything is relative, and modernist literature is a portrayal of life as it is. Next. Thematic features. Focus on from rather than meaning, breaking down of limitations of space and time, and borrowing from the other culture and language, unconventional use of metaphor. Next. Prominent modernist writer Samuel Beckett, James Joy, Virginia Woolf, Elizabethan Gowens, and Dorothy Richardson, T.S. Eliot, William Faulkner, W.B. Yeats, and Ernest Hemingway. Next. Here is my references, sir. Next.
Okay, question. Yeah, you can stop sharing. There is some problem. You have to solve this problem. Do some rehearsal with somebody, because we are getting echo sound. You must not be aware what is the problem. I think all students are aware that there is an issue with somebody, and try to solve this problem, and do it as early as possible, so that next time we do not face the same problem. Okay, questions to her?
Okay, Stuti. What does modernism mean?
Yes, other students can also start evaluation.
Modernism is a period in literary history which started around the early 1900s and continues until the early 1914s. Modernist writer in general rebels against clear-cut story and words from the 19th century.
Okay, Stuti. Can you tell me what are the movements of the modernism?
Yes. The event guides a movement that followed, including impositions, the post impressions, impressionisms and combinations, futurisms, expressionisms, and absurd expressionisms, and generally defined as modernism.
Okay, fine. So this was the last presentation of this season number 2. And all of you, in a way, made a good presentations. Only one student, Anjali, is not able to do it. Anjali has not submitted assignments also. University has extended the date up till 26th. So we still have 1 day if she is able to submit. Otherwise, we'll have to mark her absent in the internal assignments there. Your exam details are being announced, but maybe tomorrow or day after tomorrow we will have a collective session where we will try to see what will be our future plan for classes, semester 3 classes or semester 2 exams, and how things will be there. We will inform you about all those things. Final reminder, don't forget to complete your evaluation, and also timestamp. Also, don't forget to put the timestamps of your video in a proper way. If possible, have a look at it once again, verify again that the time frame that you have given is okay or not. If there is any problem, then correct it and put a proper time frame. Okay, so we are ending our call here. I am ending the recording also with this. Okay.